Hi class, we're going to talk about subtracting fractions with unlike denominators tonight. And I have to tell you, it's just like yesterday's lesson. So if this looks familiar, it's the same lesson, except for I have changed this word, subtracting, and it's 11-4. So let's go through some problems, and we're going to do it the same way. We're going to try it with method number 1, method number 2, and method number 3. I'm going to give you a hint though. Did you notice your textbook today that most of the problems were like this one? I want you to remember that as we disappear our numbers here. Most of the problems were like number 1, where we have to check to see if one of the denominators is the common one. So let's try it. All right, so let's do number 1. 1/4 take away 1/8. All right, so let's not forget the subtraction sign. I'm telling you, this is probably, besides not reducing, this is the number 1 problem kids make when they're doing these problems. So we can see that there are unlike denominators. We have to make them common before we can subtract, just like yesterday when we had to add. So we are going to go behind the curtain here and prepare them. Now let's do step number 1. Check to see if one of the denominators is the common one. Well, look, always check the largest one. Is 8 in the 4's times tables? Yes, it is. So guys, guess what? 8 is the common denominator, and it happens to be the lowest one. So let's fix our equivalent fractions. 4 times what gave us 8? It would be 2. 4 times 2 is 8. What you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So this would become a 2. Now down here, we just brought that 8 over. It hasn't changed, so let's just bring the numerator over, and that would be 1. Now be sure when you go to subtract, as this problem is doing for me down here, that you do not forget and add these numbers. So it would be 2 take away 1 is 1. Obviously this is reduced to lowest terms. 1/8 is our final answer. See? No different. Well, let's do another one. Let's see if we can do it where it's step number 2. Multiply 2 denominators and just be sure to reduce the answer. All right, so I have 2/3 take away 1/2. Now we're going to use that second method, and I had taught you this on the last lesson, where you just take the 2 denominators and you multiply them together. Man, this is picky tonight, huh? So I'm going to make new fractions, multiplying the 2 and the 3 together to give me 6. That will be the common denominator. Okay, now I have to make equivalent fractions. I have to find out what the numerators are. So I just do 2 times what gave me 6? Well, it was 2 times 3. What you do to the bottom, you do to the top. 3 times 1 is 3. All right, now come up here and let's fix this one. 3 times what is 6? 3 times 2 is 6. What you do to the bottom, you do to the top. All right, 2 times 2 is 4. It is 4, you heard me. Now we have to subtract. Don't forget, it is a subtraction problem. So I need to bring down the original denominator, which was 6, and then subtract. 4 take away 3 is 1. Look at that. It's also in lowest terms. Can't be reduced any further. What do you think? Easy so far? All right, let's try one more. We'll do a hard one. We're going to try step number 3. Find the LCM. So I'm going to do 5/8. Let's hope I don't make a mistake. Take away 7/12. I need to stop wishing that I make a mistake. I can tell you're wishing that. All right, I won't erase if I make a mistake. How's that? So I know I can't subtract until I make common denominators. In this situation, I don't really want to multiply these two. I think my denominator is going to end up way too big. You know me, I always like shortcuts. And if I looked, step number 1, is the 12 the common one? Well, 12 isn't in the 8's times table, so that method doesn't work. So I need to go ahead and find the multiples of 8 and 12. Now when we do this, finding the LCM, I always start with the largest number. It always works out easier that way. So 12 times 1 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. And look at that. I'm going to stop already. Do you recognize the 24? Is it in the 8's times tables? Sure is. Watch this. 8 times 1 is 8. Times 2 is 16. Times 3 is 24. So they have 24 in common. Really, that was much easier than even multiplying 8 and 12. The common denominator, the lowest one that they have in common, is 24. Get back on there. All right, so now let's make equivalent fractions. 12 times what gave us 24? Well, 12 times 2. What you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So 7 times 2 is 14. And now let's fix this one. 8 times what gave us 24? 8 times 3. What you do to the bottom, you do to the top. And 5 times 3 is 15. All right, I know I'm going to get the blue color out because you're not going to forget to subtract, are you? And when you take your test, I want you to do this. If you are one of those people who tends to make mistakes, I want you to circle all of your adding and subtracting signs so you don't forget that. All right, so let's do this answer. I bring down the original denominator, which is 24, and I subtract. Oh, this is easy subtraction. 15 take away 14 is 1. Final answer. What do you think? Not too bad? Same as yesterday's lesson. All right, if you have questions, you bring them to class. Or just rewind this and watch it again. Have a good night.